Hello, good evening, and welcome to the United Stand. My name is Levin2K, and there's a lot of people who maybe haven't seen me in a while. I know it's been a couple of days. I was getting a bunch of people going, "Where's Levin? What's happened to Levin? Not Levin's gone. What?" Guys, I'm here. I'm all right. I do work. I have a job. So I gotta. Sometimes I become a bit unavailable, but when I am available, you know where to find me here on the United Stand. Look, we got to talk about the game yesterday. We got to talk about what's moving forward for this team. A lot of things to talk about, a lot of different things to discuss from all sorts of different angles. And in today's show, really, guys, we're keeping it chill. It's a Champions League night. A lot of you want to watch football. I want to watch football. Mark's doing a watch along later, so I'm going to send you guys all that way once this is done. But the essence of today's show, I just want to get people's thoughts on things. There's a bunch of things that typically divide the fan base, sadly, right? I think a lot of people are split on opinions about certain players and certain issues, and so we're going to discuss all of them. I will give you my opinions if you care, right? If you happen to care about what I have to say. Not many people do, so it's all right if you don't, but let's get right into it. I want to start off by talking about, I believe the thumbnail is Pogba out or some Pogba drop Pogba or whatever. Look, obviously Pogba can't actually play, so the whole drop Pogba thing's a bit weird, but don't worry about that. Pogba can't play this weekend, and he can't play in the next Premier League match, I believe. Of course, we have a game. Our next game in the Champions League is against Villarreal. Look, Mark talked earlier on the show about being a bit confused about why so many people are talking about Pogba, and he talks about the English bias. And I think there is always an element of people do look at Pogba straight away. Pardon me, if there's a bad performance. You sort of have that with there's certain players who, have that level of gravity where people do just talk about them in any capacity that they can. What I'll say about Pogba is, yes, Pogba didn't have a good game yesterday at all. Didn't have a good game. Many players in our team didn't have great games yesterday, and so we can talk about all those. I'm sure at one point we will talk about a lot of the players who just seemingly didn't have good games. I've never been a big fan of the... I get some people don't like Pogba, and I get some people want Pogba gone and they want him to leave and it's good riddance or whatever. I don't like when I see people be very hasty towards Pogba. Maybe that's just because I like him, right? And so I have a sort of personal bias there towards him. But there's been a lot of negativity around Paul Pogba over the past 24 hours. Now, I get it because, of course, once again, he didn't have the greatest of games. And I think a lot of people potentially thought he would have a good game. You look at the setup of that team, very similar to what he has in the France setup right now, where it's a three at the back, so there's three defenders behind him, there's a wing backs, and he has somebody next to him that in theory is supposed to be able to help break up the play and give him a better ride to sort of having a bit more freedom while playing in the central midfield area. I thought that could be a possibility as well. Of course, some of those players beside him and around him didn't have the best of games. But the one big difference for the people who maybe saw that and go, okay, so why didn't Pogba have a good game? Like, I don't get it. It's very different to what we see in France when he's playing for the France national team. Typically, with international football, there's not much pressing. Like the levels of pressing in international football versus in the Champions League or in the Premier League, not comparable. And we really saw that, right? A lot of the problem Pogba had in the midfield yesterday was that he was being pressed quite a bit. Didn't have much passing options because Atalanta, were man marking and they made it really difficult. And obviously now that sparked this conversation of, this guy's leaving anyway. Why are we bothering with him? Why are we even talking about him? Just play Donny van de Beek. Play somebody else. Just don't play this guy. He's not playing well. Why are we trying this? I saw a lot of people as well on social media who were going, why are we even trying to play Pogba in the pivot at this point anymore? He only really plays well off the left now. Let's give up with this whole Pogba pivot thing. And there's just been a lot of conversation around it. I am of the belief that he's basically gone. I don't see a world where Paul Pogba stays. I don't, I talked about yesterday on the watch along with Mark, I talked about pathways, right? What does this team look like by the end of the season? What is the direction we're going in? With Pogba, I don't see a direction that we are going in or we could go in that really makes it likely for him to stay at the club. He's going to be in high demand. There's plenty of teams that will want a player like Paul Pogba, especially teams in other leagues where maybe he won't have some of the issues he's had in midfield, specifically in the Premier League, right? You look at the Premier League, midfields are much more combative. There's much more pressing. It's much more physical, and you can't spend too much time on the ball in the Premier League. We've seen some of the greatest midfielders ever discuss this thing, and that's something Paul Pogba is susceptible to at sometimes. In other leagues, he will get away with it and it won't be a problem and he'll just look like the best player in the world, right? Like, he'll look phenomenal. Obviously, I'm exaggerating a bit, but you get the point I'm trying to make. So I think it's very likely he leaves. Of course, the whole drop Pogba thing, once again, I find it funny because, he can't play this weekend, but he actually hasn't even been starting in the bigger games of late, right? Ollie would much rather play McFred, it seems. So, yeah, in terms of what happens with Paul Pogba, I think it's pretty much done, probably. Like, I see a world where I don't see a world where he really stays, and I want to know what you guys think. I think there'll be a lot of people in chat who aren't a fan and are happy that it's probably that way. There's some people who maybe will be a bit frustrated who like Pogba and think we're probably better off with him than without him. Pogba always giving excuses. Oh, I'm gonna read some chats. I'm bored of Pogba now. Look, I think there's a lot of people who are bored of the situation, and understandably, because you have a player who you have loads of people screaming at you that this player is world class and he's a talented footballer, and in other teams outside of Manchester United, you've seen him be a world class player and a world class footballer, and so it's like, okay, so how do we get that guy to do that for us? He's been here for 6 years. He's done it in spells here and there, but never consistently at the level we'd want him to. That's boring. Like, I get it, man. That's frustrating. That's boring. Let's move on now. And it's weird because in terms of an actual exit plan, you look at what Romano was saying last year when Romano was talking about how if it wasn't for COVID, Man United were prepared for Pogba to be leaving. So this chapter was almost closed last year. And I think it probably would have been for the best if that did happen, because we brought in Bruno and it's like, now you build the midfield around Bruno and you go in that direction. Whereas now we're in a position where Ollie's trying to shoehorn both of them into the same midfield and we're having issues with it. The only real place that Pogba plays and can provide plenty of value for us right now is off the left. And even though I think there's games where he probably would be best served playing there, I just don't think we're going to see it. Ollie really likes Rashford, and there's other people who you'd essentially want to give minutes to off the left. So that's my stance on Pogba. Let me know. Keep your thoughts coming in with Pogba. We got Sammy T in the chat saying Pogba at this point is a liability. I think Ollie probably thinks that way. The fact that Ollie isn't willing to play him in the bigger games, it sort of says everything we need to know about the Pogba situation. And it's a shame that it's come to that, but that's just how it is. Pogba is a luxury player and needs to play in Bruno's position if he plays, says Ruby Can. Luke Godman says, Levin, we will miss Pogba's passing range, but what the whole team lacks is Cavani's work rate. Donny needs to be in that team. Yeah, I definitely think Pogba has so many pluses as a player because he is a world-class talent. But I think people need to start. I think if you are somebody that really loves Paul Pogba and you hate when people even question Paul Pogba, I think what you need to do probably is start to look at things in the bigger picture rather than just him as an individual. Because I'm sure you can sit here and list his positives, but in the grand scheme of the way the team is functioning right now, albeit dysfunctionally, sorry, it just doesn't seem to be working. It doesn't seem to be a good fit. Now, let's get to the other side of this conversation, right? Because I'm seeing a lot of you in chat spamming it already. I believe it's in the title as well. Zidane. Of course, there are now reports about us talking to Zidane. Look, with Antonio Conte not being an option now, a lot of people just see it as, well, Zidane's the only option. Do I believe Zidane's an option? I'll believe it when big Fabrizio Romano comes out and says it. I've reached that stage now, guys, I think. I've reached a stage where, I'm jaded. I'm just jaded. I see bare reports, shout out to all the people, all the aggregates on Twitter, man, all doing great work, the United Stand news account, MUFC, MPB, all these people, they all tweet, the quotes from different sources. And I'm tired, man. I don't know what to believe unless it's from big Fabrizio and a couple other people who are trusted, right? But, let's assume it is true. Let's assume it is true that now, if Ollie's, if the board finally admits that Ollie just isn't the manager for us, where would they go? And it is Zidane. If that is the case, of course, you can maybe see there being a future for Pogba, because Zidane is obviously a big admirer of Pogba. Both great French midfielders. Zidane significantly more great, right? But, both great French midfielders. I believe Zidane actually wanted Pogba at Real Madrid at a certain point. And so there's an admiration there, there's a respect. a lot of the conversation around Zidane when in relation, to Paul Pogba is Zidane would come in and he'd make Pogba the center of the midfield, right? He'd build the team around Pogba. He'd build the midfield around Pogba. And maybe there's an element of truth to that. Maybe that's true. Maybe Zidane comes in and he goes, you know what, Bruno Fernandes, I love you. Well, I don't love you, actually. Pogba's my main man in midfield. You know, you have to prove to me. Maybe that would happen. Once again, I don't think it will happen, just because I don't think we're actually in for Zidane. But if that was to be the case, if Zidane was to come in, maybe you do see Paul Pogba stay, because I just don't think there's plenty really good options right now in Europe. Of course, there's the prospect of Real Madrid Galactico Part 2, or Part 3, maybe I should say, in the summer, right? Obviously, they're going to try go for Mbappe. Not even going to try go. They're going to get Mbappe. They have money to spend because they've been saving up money for ages. Maybe that is something that happens in the summer, and so Pogba goes and he becomes a part of that, especially since we know he's always had a dream to play for Real Madrid. But outside of that, does he go back to Juventus? Maybe he does. Maybe he wants to go back and, you know, Allegri will welcome him back with open arms. I've seen reports of PSG. I don't see it. PSG have more than enough problems as it is balancing players who, you know, are very, very attack-minded players in their squad right now. Adding Pogba to the mix would be careless, irresponsible, nonsensical, and I just don't think they'll do it. And so if we had Zidane, it's very likely that Pogba would look around and go, you know what, I've always wanted to work with Zidane, and there's not really many better options. Let me stay. Will that happen though? Let me know in the chat if you guys think that will happen. Let me know if you think that will happen. Pogba is never the main man in midfield. He sprinkles, says Zahir. Apologies if I'm saying your name wrong. I don't think that's true. I think you can build a midfield around Pogba. Can you do it in the Premier League? It remains to be seen, right? It remains to be seen if you can actually do it in the Premier League, because I don't think we as a club have ever done a great job of that. And I think that relationship's never really been on point. I think some people go, there's too many excuses for Pogba. I think if we're being honest, you have to look at both sides and say, both sides probably have failed each other, right? Both sides, I think that's fair to say. Both sides have failed each other, and it's probably time to just move on from that. The thing is, I think we all know that Bruno Fernandes is more of a guarantee in the Premier League right now in terms of just output, raw output, right? And so if you're the Manchester United board, if you're Ollie, if you're Ed Woodward, if you're Philip and Joe Glazer, and you have to pick who you're going to build your midfield around, even if you think Pogba's a better player than Bruno, or Pogba has more talent, or Pogba has more upside, just based off of raw output and what you've seen over the past, you know, since however long Bruno's been here, it probably wouldn't be wise to choose Pogba over Bruno in that sense. So I just don't see it. I don't see it happening. Ethan Johnson with a super chat. Big up, guys. Get your super chats in, man. Get your super. I ain't been here for a while. I want people to show me their super chats. We got Ethan Johnson saying, "You're talking sense. This board and ownership won't do it. Ollie will have a job even if we get waxed by City on the weekend." Yeah, guys. If you're hoping for, like, think about it. Just think about it in this sense. Ollie survived us getting battered by Liverpool 5-0. He is invincible. You know, he's Thanos and he has all the Infinity Stones, right? He can't be stopped. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer cannot be stopped. I saw Mark talking about it, and I think he made a solid point, even though I don't always agree with Mark, but I think Mark made a solid point of, you know, the Glazers will stick with Ollie because right now, on the business side of things are fine for Manchester United. And why would they risk that? You know, why would they want to risk that? Why would they change that up? The moment things maybe don't look fine, the moment when Champions League is impossible for us, that's probably when maybe you start to see a bit more movement. But in the meantime, don't see anything. Don't see anything really changing with Ollie. I think Ollie could lose 3-0 to Man City, and he'd be in flipping Carrington the next day in his office watching training. Evening, everyone, says Sally. Evening to all the mods, guys. Appreciate all the mods, all the super chatters, all the non-super chatters, all the regular chatters, all the people, even the people who don't chat. There's a lot of people who just watch and don't chat. Big up to all of you guys. Hope you're having a great night. Obviously, we're talking about Pogba, we're talking about Zidane. We're also going to be talking about some of the other players in our squad who I think many people know probably do deserve a chance and haven't been given a chance. We're going to be talking about Ollie. In fact, let's talk about Ollie now, because people are talking about, you know, Zidane's not realistic target. No, there's not been enough reports that suggest Zidane really is interested in the job. And maybe if he was interested in the job, we can have a bit more conversation about what that could mean for the future. But in the meantime, if it doesn't seem like Zidane is going to be an option, Zidane's going to be possible to acquire as a manager, we are going forward with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I don't like it, you don't like it, but that's just where it is. So what do we now do moving forward? Because we have big games, you know, we can't keep stinking up the pitch every time we play. What is the way forward? Do we stick with this 5 at the back? Do we go back to the 4-2-3-1? Does he change certain personnel? What has to happen now moving forward? Let me know what you think has to happen. I'm going to give you what I think needs to happen. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer needs to understand that at the moment, the football is very much turgid. We have players in our squad who maybe he doesn't rate particularly, but in the current framework of our team right now, are more likely to help create chances for the one and only Cristiano Ronaldo, as well as helping the team to play better football. Jadon Sancho and Donny van de Beek in particular are two players who, obviously, I just think we've reached a stage where you just need to just give them a chance. Like you need to give them an actual chance to play, because it's weird, because one thing I always used to say to people is I would love to know, right, if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got a question in a press conference, or even if it was a private conversation, let's say you got the chance to speak to Ole for 5 minutes. I'd love to just ask him, what does Donny van de Beek has to do? When you give him 5 minutes on the pitch, yeah, what do you want him to do in those 5 minutes that will guarantee him a chance to play a full 90 minutes? Like, what does he have to do? You know, when he's played and he's played decently or well in the eyes of the fans, but you haven't played him next, what is it that he did in that game that you didn't like, that you want him to do more? Like, I just want to know, what is the pathway? How can he actually play? You know, same thing with Sancho, same thing with, you know, some of the other players. Like, what is it that they can do? Because I think many of us look at it and we're perplexed, where we go, I don't understand how the game can play out like this, and there's no sort of change. There's no sort of, you know, thought of actually, you know what? Jadon Sancho's a baller, man. We need a bit more creativity. We need someone that's going to pass and move and look to play these line-breaking passes and look to make runs in behind. Like, we need... I don't get how this happens. And of course, yeah, they got, you know, a 10-minute cameo at the end of last game. And to be fair, that was probably the best 10 minutes of play in that game from us, right? So, oh boy. I really hope personnel-wise he can start to maybe, you know, drop this whole favourites thing. Because ultimately, there's a conversation to be had about the defense and dropping Harry Maguire, which we will just move on to next. But this whole aspect of favourites, this whole culture he's developed, where at any top team, realistically, if you're not doing what's asked of you, if you're not performing up to scratch, you will lose your spot in the team. But Ole's created this culture, this environment where that doesn't happen and where that can't happen. Let's read these super chats. We got Ronaldo's left shoe. I wonder how much that would cost. Would you remove Maguire from the captaincy? Does he deserve it? Schoolboy errors inspires zero confidence in the back line. Who can be our captain? It's great that you said that, because we are going to address that. So give me a second. Let me read Liam's super chat. Liam said, we are a club from at best 2010, managed by low caliber bankers. If they were any good, they would be earning millions more elsewhere. Amateurs. Glazers out, man. I need to always just say Glazers out at some point during every single show I do from now on. All right, look, in terms of Harry Maguire has not been great this season. You know, yeah, he was injured and he got rushed back, and that definitely didn't help. But he's just not been great so far this season, if we're being honest. And there definitely does warrant a conversation being had. I know a couple weeks ago, before even a Leicester game or anything, I know that there was people who were really furious with him and wanted him out completely. And I said to people, you know, hold on, let's wait a minute. But there's a lot of people now who really, really cannot bear the thought of Harry Maguire starting for us. And I think it's fair. I'm not of the belief that Harry Maguire lacks certain leadership qualities. I think he showed during the Euros that he actually does have leadership qualities in terms of just him as a person, right? You know, stepping up to take a penalty in that penalty shootout that England lost. Like, to me, that showed a lot of courage, you know, based off of what the players say about him and, you know, but based on what people say about him as well, it seems like he does have leadership qualities. The problem is no matter what type of leader you are, leading by example on the pitch is so important. And Harry Maguire has failed to do that this season for Manchester United. And when it comes down to that, does he deserve to be the captain? I'd say no. I'd say no. I think the captain of Manchester United, the captain of any team, it's not even about Manchester United at this point. The captain of any team is somebody that has to be able to lead from example. Somebody that when, you know, shit is going wrong, pardon my language, when stuff is going wrong in a game, you know, he's going to be, you know, the pinnacle of just what you want a player to be doing on the pitch. I saw a clip, I believe it was from the Leicester game, where Harry Maguire is being told by Varane to push up and get in defensive line because he was like sagging off a bit, like, and you know, you see stuff like that where you do just sort of go, this, are you the leader on the pitch right now? Like, are you the person that people look to when, you know, things are going rough in the game and they want to be inspired and they want to look at you and be able to say, you know, he's at top standard, so I need to get, but he's not that. Harry Maguire quite simply is not that. And so what do you do? Who do you give the captaincy to? I'm sure there's a lot of people who feel Bruno should get it. I think a lot of people last season felt Bruno would get it. I know me personally, whenever I always find a way to bring Football Manager into this. I know me personally, when I played Football Manager last year, I'd always give Bruno the captaincy over Maguire. And I'd always tell him, you know, I'd always press the button that says, sorry, Harry, I think we have better options at the club. And he'd always go fine. And so, you know, it was always all right. But I think the best possible option, and I think the best way to handle potentially moving him on as the captain would be to give it to Ronaldo, because Ronaldo is a club legend. Ronaldo is Cristiano Ronaldo. Ronaldo is Ronaldo. Yes. And I think nobody would question it if he gave the captaincy to Ronaldo. I don't think anybody would. Now, do I think Ollie will? No. Guys, when you think about it, right? When you think about the timeline of Harry Maguire's time as captain, there have also been other points in time where we've all gone, don't really think he should be the captain, right? We've all had times like that. So do I think Ollie's just going to do it now? Nah, he won't do it. He won't do it. You know, I think Ollie will be scared of the sort of reaction to that. People would go, oh, it's almost like he'd be scared of crushing Maguire per se. And so I don't think that'll happen. I think Maguire will remain the captain. I don't think he should be. And I don't think he should actually be playing as a starter for us, if I'm being completely honest. Yes, he will be playing because Varane's injured. For people who didn't know, by the way, Varane's out for about 3 or 4 weeks. Fortunately for us, half of that will be covered by the international break, but still we're going to be missing Varane. And so with us missing Varane, it's very likely to be Lindelof and Maguire. And I know a lot of you will be fuming because how can Eric Bailly not continue to play? He had a brilliant game yesterday. Why isn't Eric Bailly going to be starting? What can Eric Bailly do to start? Similar question to what I'm saying earlier with Donny van der Beek and Sancho. I want to know, if Bailly doesn't actually get more game time now, obviously if we're playing a 3 at the back, he will. But I don't think we're actually going to be sticking with the 3 at the back. I think we will go back to 4 players at the back. So if we're going with 2 centre-backs, I doubt we're going to see Bailly. And I want to know, like, what is it that he wants Bailly to do to give Bailly a chance to start? Because I think many people would say Harry Maguire just shouldn't be starting. He's just not been great. Maybe he needs a rest. You know, maybe he just needs some time away to regroup, to recollect his thoughts, to get some rest, because he's not looked good. Mentally, physically, he hasn't looked great. Defensively, he's not been very solid for us whatsoever. So, and I don't even dislike. I don't dislike Harry Maguire. I don't dislike any player. I know some people might find that hard to believe, but I actually don't dislike any player in our squad. I like Dan James. Like, I liked everybody, man. I like everybody, but he's not been great. And when a player who is supposed to be the captain, the leader of the team, is performing the way he's been performing, you will get questions about whether he's right to start or not. That's just how it is. You will get questions. These questions are not unwarranted. No, in my opinion as well, I don't think there's any questions around our squad that are unwarranted right now. I think you can look and turn to every single player, every member of the coaching staff, the manager, you can point to almost everybody and ask questions. And I don't think they're unwarranted. Things aren't right now. If you watched my, what's it called again? My fan vlog. If you watched my fan vlog yesterday, be sure to go watch it. It was my sort of raw reaction to the game. I talked in my fan vlog about how, in general, I am actually a bit frustrated about talking about players, because we're continuously talking about players going wrong, but the root cause of a lot of the problems in our squad right now just are the manager. I don't see how you can have so many brilliant players, and we have a brilliant squad, right? I don't think our squad has been built well. I don't think it's the most balanced squad. I don't think it's a well thought out squad in terms of, just the raw building of the squad. But when you just look at the amount of talent we have in the squad, it's unmatched to the majority of teams in the Premier League and Europe. So I don't see how you can have this many great players and fail to find any sort of rhythm, any sort of cohesion, any sort of, good run of form. It doesn't make sense. You have to look at the person in charge of those players, and that's the manager. So, guys, squad's great, badly built. Yeah, that's how I feel. That's how I feel about it. The squad, we have a great squad. It's just a badly built squad. And that's why modern teams have directors of football. That's why they have people who really are, conscious of this thing. But hey, we're Manchester United. What was the next thing I wanted to talk about? All in all, should Maguire be stripped of captaincy? Yes. Will he be? No. And I feel like that's the answer to a lot of the questions surrounding our team right now. Should blah, blah, blah be gone? Yes. Will they be? No. Should we play a better style of football? Yes. Will we play a better style of football? No. It literally is just the answer to the majority of the questions around our team right now. And we all know why. Glazes up. Lewandowski. So it's been a while since someone's called me Lewandowski. Yeah, per director of football knowledge. That's what you need. But John Murta at the wheel. All right, cool. Let's talk about this Manchester City game. What needs to happen? I said earlier, I don't think we're going to stick with this 5 at the back thing. A lot of people are really pissed off because, yeah, we played 3 centre-backs yesterday with no centre-backs on the bench, and one of them actually got injured. And when Bailly went down and he was limping, guys, oh my God. The way my heart, the way my heart skipped a beat when I saw him limping. Hey, if Bailly had gone off injured, trouble. We really would have been in trouble. And just because of how thin we are on centre-backs, it seems at the moment, I don't see us playing the 3 at the back. I think it wouldn't be wise to risk it again. Maybe he will, though. Maybe he'll go, hopefully Lindelof is back. Maybe he'll go Lindelof, Maguire, Bailly. Maybe he'll go Luke Shaw left centre-back, Tellers on the left, but I don't see that happening against Man City. And so I think the best option probably is to go back to playing, 4 defenders. Sorry, I just froze there. 4-2-3-1 probably is what we're going to have to go back to. I think our best pivot, sadly, doesn't include Paul Pogba. And I know a lot of people like Paul Pogba, but I just think we need to stop trying this whole Pogba and the pivot thing. I do think there's no point. Obviously, you can't play on the weekend, but Donny is probably going to have to play if we want to win. But we're probably going to see McFred. I personally would play Fred and Donny. I'd try it. Fred and Donny. Have we seen Fred and Donny start together in the pivot? I can't recall if we've started a game with Fred and Donny. I think realistically, we're going to see McFred. I think realistically, we're going to see Greenwood on the right. We're going to see Rashford on the left. We're going to see Bruno at number 10, and we'll see Ronaldo up front. And I worry for that because we've already seen how defensively the structure isn't great. And it's looked better with the five at the back, just because naturally the way a five at the back system works, you can be a lot more compact, and it's a lot harder to sort of create overloads out wide, which is what we've struggled to deal with. And against Man City, they will just break us down. They will break us down regardless of what formation we play. And I think that's the important thing people need to realize. We as a team defensively are just really bad. Like, we are just our defensive principles and our defensive structure, the framework of our defense, a lot of people would call it that, isn't strong at all. And it's not just going to get strong by Saturday. We're playing on Saturday or Sunday. It's not just going to get strong by the weekend. And that's the important thing. And so we're going to be very vulnerable to a City team that know how to... No, even I saw a lot of people going, oh yeah, we should just keep the five at the back because it will be better against City. But why are we acting like City don't know how to break down a team that plays five at the back? I've seen one, this City team do it. And two, I've watched Pep Guardiola do it with teams he's had for years. You know what I mean? So this idea that us playing a five at the back will just make us maybe a bit stronger again, it's not. Realistically, it's not. Our best hope is that we are just stronger defensively. We are, more compact. Players aren't getting dragged out of position. There were too many times against Atalanta where they were just easily dragging us out of position. And that's how they scored the first goal, right? The first goal they scored was just because they dragged a bunch of our players out of position. They exploited that space, cut it back to Ilicic. So regardless of what formation we play, we just need to be better defensively. I think he'll go with McFred because he'll look to protect the back four. McTominay and Pogba just didn't provide any protection for the back four. It was really poor out there. They really, not back four, sorry, back five, but back four for most of the game. But even at the start when it was a back five, they just really weren't providing much protection for them. And it's a shame because I say that, if I'm saying that, McTominay should be gone as well, right? If Pogba obviously can't play, but I don't think Pogba, even if he was available, I don't think he should play. McTominay probably shouldn't play either. McTominay wasn't great. He simply wasn't great. He wasn't good enough. So once again, we're questioning Oli and we're questioning whether he will drop players who aren't good or whether he's just going to stick with the players that he likes and trusts. It's funny because typically when a manager trusts certain players, it's because those players get results for him. And of late, some of these players just don't seem to. Hansi Flick, sadly, he's the manager of Germany and the German national team. And sadly, when the Nagelsmann leaves Bayern, he'll probably just be leaving to replace Hansi Flick for the German national team as well. So no good German managers for us for a while. Scarecrow says, Levin, that's your opinion, bro. You don't have a coaching badge and you don't play for Manchester United. Yes, you are correct. I don't have a coaching badge and I don't play for Manchester United like the majority of people on earth who watch Manchester United. I'm never going to claim to be an expert. I'm never going to claim that I know more than, Manchester United's analysts or coaches or anybody. But I do try my best to learn and to understand the game of football at a deeper level. And I have my own opinions on what goes on the pitch. If you don't agree with them, okay. But to go, but you don't know, you can't say that. You're not an analyst. You ain't got coaching badges. Pretty ludicrous. You can apply, if you apply that logic to anything else, really, most people on earth don't have the right to talk about anything because most people aren't qualified or educated about most of the things people want to talk about. What, you can't have an opinion on a film. You haven't studied creating, what's it called? Filmology, I don't know, right? You get the point I'm trying to make. So what? I can't have an opinion on what I see and I can't give reasonable thoughts about what I see because I ain't got coaching badges. Doesn't make any sense, man. It doesn't make any sense. Our best pivot is Matic. Donny would really need to improve on headers to play next to Fred without getting exploited. I don't think Donny's lack of aerial ability should even be an issue as to why he doesn't play. I think the reason he probably doesn't play is because Oli sees him as a number 10. He sees him as a player that wants to get in the box. And in that position, he probably wants people who are more willing to stay deep, which is one of those things where many people would argue okay, just tell him to do that then. But yeah, I don't know. I ain't got coaching badges, man, so I can't tell you. Are you DM on IG, says Daniel Kirk. Are your DM down on IG? Are my DMs down? No, my DMs should be on. My DMs should be on. Donny will track back. Donny works hard. Donny definitely works hard. And I think some of the performances we've seen on the pitch recently, the players look disinterested at times. It definitely felt that way for me watching the second half of yesterday. It felt like the players were disinterested. And I think Donny is so eager to prove to people that, you know, he's capable of playing for this team, that you play him and he provides all the energy and desire that Ollie wants in the players. Donny would give you that, as well as giving you a technical masterclass. So I'm all for seeing Donny play. I am all for seeing Donny play at some point. I just think it's very likely that he won't. He finds spaces. Look, yesterday we really struggled to exploit space, and this will be one of the sort of last things I'll give you. Even though I don't have coaching badges, guys, I will give you a tactical breakdown here, because a lot of you know I like to talk about tactics. So, you know, whenever you're trying to break down any sort of a block, you need to look to try and exploit space, right? And against Atalanta, they have not Romero, sorry, they have Demiral, who's really aggressive, right? He's a very aggressive centre-back. And so oftentimes you can bait him out of position. And that's something that we actually did a really good job of with Bruno. Bruno would bait him out of position, and that would leave space in behind him, right? Space in between their other two centre-backs for us to exploit. And that's how we actually scored that first goal, right? That we scored in the first half, because we dragged him out of position and then we exploited that space. Bruno makes a run in behind, Greenwood plays a perfect pass, and you know, then Ronaldo comes up behind him. Ronaldo's run was really intelligent as well, to be fair. And we scored that goal that way, right? Exploiting space. Now, when you look at that team, not a lot of those players are proficient in exploiting space. Like, you wouldn't say Rashford's best strength is his ability to exploit space in tight, compact areas. Whereas you look at, you know, maybe the likes of a Donny van der Beek and a Jadon Sancho on the bench, and you probably would say that's one of their strengths, right? So, you know, having these kind of players available to you, you'd think you'd use them, but no, I guess not. It's one of these things where I think ultimately we all have an opinion, and some people are wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about everything. What's your opinion on Ten Hag? Really good manager. I enjoy watching this Ajax teams. Let me read some super chats. DMs are not working for a lot of people. Just wonder if they are for you. I don't know. I've not been on Instagram, bro. Everyone can have their opinions. You don't need badges to see things, but I dare swap Bruno and Pogba 8 and 10. Sol's bringing it up from the back and attack. I think a lot of people would say no, right? Because a lot of people would go, no, we don't want Bruno playing in a deeper role where he has to have a bit more defensive discipline. We want Bruno creating an attack, because that's where he's shined so much for us. So I get what you're saying, Paulie, but that's not what I'd go with. Guys, look, I'm going to end the show here. It's been a pleasure. It's been a while. I enjoy talking to you guys as always. If you want to talk to me more about football, you can follow me on Twitter at Levan2K. You can follow me anywhere, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, everywhere. Levan2K. I appreciate it. Hopefully I'll be back sometime, probably later on this week. I'll be here for the game against City as well, so be sure to check that out. Wait, do badges make you smarter? Apparently they do. Yes, they do. Badges. If you don't have coaching badges, you can't talk about football. You heard it here first. All right. Have a good night, guys. Go enjoy the Champions League football. Be sure to check out Mark. Mark's doing a watch along on That's Football. I don't know what game he's doing. I'm sure somebody in chat will know, but Mark's doing a watch along, so be sure to go check that out. We'll see you guys all later.